This is AndyTube. Thanks for stopping by today and visiting me on my AndyTube channel on YouTube. While I'm setting up the tools and supplies I'm going to need for the video, I wanted to take a moment to thank all my subscribers and viewers who wished me well, sent me prayers, sent me cards, and kind of had my back during this time that I've been away. Because I've been gone for a minute. Well, I guess more than a minute. I guess we'd better to say a while. I've been away. Cancer, surgery, COVID, cancer, surgery, chemotherapy, that kind of a way. But there's like a break in all that right now, and I've been feeling like I want to do a video. And it's a fortuitous time because my wife is out of the country right now visiting family that she hasn't been able to visit since before COVID. So I'm happy for that opportunity for her, but man, do I miss her. So I've been trying to keep busy with projects around the house, and it came to me that I have been remiss in doing the annual checkup or tune-up on her sewing machines. So I thought, wow, this is a perfect time because I won't be interrupting her projects. And she has quite a few projects. And by far her favorite machine is Coco, her 301A. And that gets the most use. And so that's usually the one that I take a look at first to see what Coco's needs are and so forth. So that's my plan for this video, is to show you kind of just an annual maintenance checkup, tune-up for Coco. Singer model 301A. Coco was very popular with my online audience, and she's a fabulous machine, and I get why everybody likes her. So I want to keep her in tip-top condition for my wife. So I'm going to go get Coco, and then we'll come back and we'll get started. Okay? Okay. Some of you may remember Coco from my Coco Goes to the Spa series, the most fun playlist I ever created for a sewing machine. So anyway, this is like an annual tune-up, checkup for a 301, and I'm gonna take the little protector off of the feed dog and put it aside. Make sure there's not a needle in there, okay? And then I'm going to start. I want to go ahead and just take off the presser foot here. You know, I have to tell you, I'm a little nervous with this video. I feel out of practice, so bear with me. I go ahead and take this off, and I actually soak some of the parts I take off in a little alcohol. You can use soapy dishwater too. This is 70% alcohol. I prefer to use 90, but I haven't been able to find it in quite a while around where I live. So anyway, I'll just let that soak in there while I'm doing other work on Coco. Put that to the side. And then I'm actually going to do the same thing with the needle thread tension assembly here. I'm going to remove the whole assembly and just soak it in alcohol. Dust and dirt and stuff can get in there, and I've made a dozen or more videos about taking these assemblies apart and cleaning them and putting back together, and Coco doesn't need that really. because my wife takes good care of her. But I still want to do that and kind of just let it soak. Alcohol or soapy water isn't going to hurt it. If you use, you have to dry it afterwards, especially if you use water, you have to dry it very well. But even with alcohol, you have to dry it. But I like just taking it out and soaking it to clean it, because then I don't have to, you know, if I take it apart, put it back together, I have to zero it out all over again. And just by removing it, you don't lose any of the zero out. You don't change anything about the way you got it set up. So there's just one set screw here that I'm going to loosen and try and pull the whole thing out. If you've never done this, maybe I'll show you that set screw. Oh boy, that's pretty bright. Can you see that little set screw right there? That's the one I'm talking about. Okay, and it can be pretty tough. You know, you can put a little WD-40 on it or whatever, and you don't even have to do this. Let me get it out here. There we go. Just give it a couple of turns. It's a pretty long set screw that goes back in there. And then I'm just going to grab it here and see if I can wiggle it out. There it is. Just like that. When I put it back in, I'll show you. But I'm going to add that to my little alcohol container that I'm soaking. I guess I need a little more alcohol. In the description below the video, I'll put a link to the Coco Goes to the Spa playlist, and there's videos in there about the tension unit and stuff. If you can't, or you're uncomfortable about taking that out. Okay, so with those parts out, I'm going to go ahead and remove the felt washers on both of the spool pins and put those away for safe keeping. And the first thing I like to start with is the motor. And I'm going to put a towel down behind the machine here, okay, so that I can protect the machine while I lay it down there. And then I'm going to can you believe I still have this old block of wood? Man, that thing is, I should probably get a new one, huh? Looks pretty ratty. I'm going to remove the bottom cover here. I'm going to take off the thumb nut, and there's a felt washer there too, and I'm just going to put it in a little container to help keep track of it. And then I'm going to pull off the plate, and we'll take a look at it while we're here. Yeah, okay, so yep, you can see how much my wife uses the machine. Oops, there's a little bit more here. So just to make sure I've got all the lint out of there, I'm just going to brush this off, okay? Get that cleaned up. See? Just like that. It's in good shape. No problem. Put that aside. Clean up the gunk from my workbench here and put that aside. Now let's get to this motor. I want to remove the motor retention plate here. It's one big screw up here. Let me get the right, let me see if I got the right. That'll do. And because I wanna at first slide the motor out just a little bit. I need it to stay hooked up to the wires so that I can actually run the motor, because I'm going to polish the commutator and reseat the motor brushes all in one step with a diamond stone. Put these parts aside. Okay. So with this, I should be able to pull out the motor a little bit. If it doesn't, I can wiggle the hand wheel if the gears are kind of stuck together. But I'm just gently going to try pulling that out a little bit. Don't pull it by the silver tube, because you probably snap off the tube. I'm just going to pull it out here. I should invent a motor puller, huh? For somebody. One of you mechanically minded engineers can invent a little tool. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. See, these are the wires that the power is going to come from the foot controller, and I want to keep those up on there, but I want some access to these brush covers right here. And because I want to open up the brush cover and remove it so that I can see the commutator and the brush. There's the little screw. Put that in a container. Now I should be able to slip the brush tube up and off. Brush tube cover, or the motor brush cover plate. There's two of them. There's one down here on the bottom too. But to start, I'm only going to open this top one. And then you can see in here, hopefully, no light there. This is the motor brush tube with the motor brush in it, and that copper with some gunk on it is the commutator. It's not in bad shape, so it's going to clean up real easy. Too bad. I think I'm just going to use I don't think I'm going to need this stone. That thing is so smooth, and the new brushes I put on there a couple years ago, I think I can just go in and rub on that commutator, and we'll see how much of that stuff comes off. Yeah. Okay, so let me stick it back in there. Push it up so that I can turn the hand wheel, which will turn the gear on the motor shaft, which will rotate the commutator. And let's see, if two swipes will get it mostly clean, that's usually enough. If that doesn't get it pretty clean, then I'll get out the diamond stone. I have a video about how to use a diamond stone to polish the commutator and reseat the brushes, which is when you have a slowdown in power, often that's what it is. The commutator is dirty and gunk is built up, and there's a gap between the brush and the commutator, and you get sparks and you lose power. And usually cleaning that commutator, reseating the brush with that stone will give you anywhere from 15 to 25% increase in power, depending on how dirty it was. Okay, you get the idea of this. So let me finish that up and I'll be back. Okay, so I used about 3 more of these, and they're coming out very clean now. So that did a good enough job this time. And like I said, I'll put a link to the motor brush, seating the motor brush and cleaning the commutator video in the description below this video. So of course now I've got to put that brush cover back on, right? I'm going to slip the brush cover back behind that little tube, and then I'm going to put the screw back in there so I don't forget to do that. And that'll be it for the motor. Put a little drop of oil on here to put that in. You saw how easy that came out, right? One thing I do on a lot of these is put a little 1 drop of oil on the screw tip or in the hole, and with a piece like this mounting plate, it pushes up against the side of the motor. So it doesn't really hold the motor up. It doesn't support the motor. It presses it by the side, and there's no need to over tighten it. You want to snug it up so it doesn't vibrate loose, but man, I even had one of these break off on me. I was trying to get it out. So don't take that. See? See? Plenty firm. Plenty firm, okay? So, there's our motor. Let's move on to the hand wheel. Servicing the hand wheel area, what I want to do is pull the hand wheel out and clean excess grease or dirt off of the Texto Light gear on the hand wheel, and clean oil and stuff out of the area, and that also give me access to the pinion gear on the tip of the motor, and clean that off, and then I'll re-grease the gear, the hand wheel gear, and put it back in, and then rotating that against the motor shaft gear, it spreads the grease there. Looks pretty good, really. And this area looks pretty good. So I'm going to just take an old rag here and wipe out in case some oil or grease flew off the pinion gear there. And I'm going to clean that area, and then I'm just going to take like an old toothbrush and clean those threads out a little bit. And let's see if you can spot the motor pinion gear. See that? That's right on the end of the motor shaft. So I want to clean that a little bit with a toothbrush. Let me get one that's a little not stained already, and we'll see what comes off of there. And try and go with the teeth or the threads of the gear, and then rotate it a little bit. And usually on a machine that you've serviced before, this is about all you have to do to get anything out of there. So you see, it just barely stained up. I mean, just barely. See if I can see. So that's a very good sign. So I have the excess cleaned off of the pinion gear. Oil I put on there a couple years ago, probably by now. And I'm just going to do kind of the same thing with this Texto Light. I think DuPont created the Textolite. It's kind of like a precursor to Formica type laminate. It's got linen and stuff in there that's laminated with this plastic chemical, and then the gear's cut and it's flexible, and they do real well. See, by not over greasing and over oiling the machine, you're actually doing it a favor. With everything cleaned up here now, we're going to put some grease on there and get it back installed. One thing I do want to do when I have the hand wheel off like this is go ahead and test the spring. There's a spring in here that helps cushion the starting and stopping of the motor and the arm frame, the horizontal arm shaft, and I don't know, I'll turn it and let it go. I don't know if you can tell that that's snapping back. So you want to be sure that it's doing that. If it's not, if it doesn't have that springiness, that means either the spring has come loose or, even worse, broken. It's rare, but it can happen, and this is the perfect time to find out. So the grease that I use is the Tri-Flow Clear Synthetic Grease with PTFE. Been using that many years. See if I can get it up here a little bit. Whoops, there you go. You can see that that's clear and synthetic. It's not a hydrocarbon type product. And I just use a semi-stiff acrylic artist brush, very inexpensive. Just bought a pack with about 10 different brushes in them, watercolor and acrylic and stuff, for a few dollars at Walmart one time. And I'm just going to get a little bit on the brush here, like so, and basically paint it on that gear. Okay, so I'll just get it on here and spread it around. Any grease that doesn't get on the Textolite portion is wasted and just has a tendency to collect dirt and dust and stuff like that. So you want to, I just kind of fill up the little spaces between the teeth, try to, without glomming it all over the place, and it's just going to come flying off when you're sewing at high speeds. So again, that's wasted. And it's a little bit generous here because some of this grease is going to transfer right on to that motor shaft pinion gear that it mates with. You know, it's just going to rub right off. So there's really not a need to grease that gear if you do this properly. And this is so easy to do while you've got the gear out of the machine. If you wanted to grease it while it was in the machine, I would just put a, well, I'll show you when I get this back together how you can do that. How's that? Okay, that's a pretty generous amount, actually. And get a Q-tip here and get this section here and clean that bit. Ta-da! Okay, put the lid back on my grease, and let's get up here with the machine. Take a look at this. Now, the hand wheel rotates on this counterbalance that goes on the arm shaft. So you have a little metal on metal there, and I like to put just a couple drops of oil in there, and let it have a good connection there and prevent any friction in the future if it does rotate. So I use a Tri-Flow product here also, Tri-Flow Superior Lubricant. This is also has PTFE in it to help reduce friction. And these little bottles, and the larger one too, come with this little clear tube, so you can kind of, here, let me show you here. What I'm going to do is just put a couple of drops like that, okay? So just get it up there like that, and I'll just spread it around, put some on the threads. Okay. Then I'm just going to slide it right on. I'm going to rock it right in there to the motor. And there we go. And I like to do this part first. I don't think I mentioned that, because when I'm oiling the other parts of the machine and greasing the gear, I like to be able to turn this so that the parts move and spread the oil and grease around. I need to put this back on now, clutch washer, and guess we'll put it just about, we'll try, whoops, this one. There we go. 1, 2, 3. You have a 50-50 chance of getting this back on right. See how these pins stick up? That's the stop for the little stop screw that goes in the chrome handle. So we're going to put it on there and give it a try. Make sure that it goes and sits in the back. And then we'll take the chrome knob here and we'll carefully start that and spin that on. And we'll see how we did. Now you can look with a flashlight, which I don't think I have one with me here at the table. No. And you can kind of see where those pins are sometimes. But that's the stop screw right there. So that when you loosen it to wind the bobbin, it stops it from over loosening and allowing the chrome handle to spin off during bobbin winding. Oh, look at that. I got it. It won't even turn, so that means I got it right on top of one of those pins. So I'm going to have to loosen that and take this off. Right? And I want to turn this now 180 degrees. So let me pull this out a little bit to get to the washer. So that's how the washer was on. So I'm going to turn it 180 degrees and put it back on. Okay, so now I have my one pin there, like at 12, and then I don't know what's this, 4 and 8 maybe, something like that. And I'm going to put this back on. Okay, and you see that holds at 3 o'clock. My pin is here, my pin is here, so that's perfect. Now I will tighten this screw back in there. And then we'll make sure that I can tighten the clutch and loosen the clutch washer. So by holding the hand wheel and turning the screw, clamp down good. There we go. Everything is moving. Lead dog's moving. I can see the needle bars going up and down. When I turn it left to wind the bobbin, the tension comes off of it and it hits that stop so it doesn't just fly off when I'm winding the bobbin. And now the hand wheel, the motor will turn the hand wheel, but it won't turn the it doesn't turn the needle bar or lead dog or anything else. Okay, so that's exactly what we wanted. We did that. So that is accomplished now with the hand wheel, all fixed up and pretty. Let me go ahead and do the top, I guess. All right. I forget, there's the top 90-degree angle gears. So there's 2 screws up here to remove the top cover. The reason I like to do the grease first is because if I get any drop of oil on a place I'm going to grease, like the gears, if I later try to put grease on there, it doesn't stick. It won't stick because the oil is there. And then you got to clean off the grease you tried to put on, and then you got to clean off the oil and dry it, and then put your grease on. So I always do the grease first, and then if I do happen to get a drop of oil on there, it just slides right off the grease, and I'm good. Okay, so let's go ahead and lift this top cover off. Okay, put that aside and let's take a look in here. Yep, I'm going to lower the camera here and do a little change here. So, oh, by the way, there is the Textilite gear turning the motor pinion gear. And I wanted to say, if you felt you needed to add a little grease, you take that top cover off and you put a glop of grease right here and you start painting it like that. Okay? Now some people say you can just put a glob of grease right between the two and run the motor a little bit and it'll spread them around, which it eventually does. But my experience has been it throws a lot of oil off, you know, when you do that. So if you don't have the hand wheel off but you want to add add grease to the gear, you can do it just like that. Okay, just a little bit more grease on there, paint a little bit, turn it, paint a little bit, turn it, add a little more grease, paint, turn. Okay, and how we clean the Textilite gear, I want to clean this gear here with a toothbrush also, to get any excess old gear off of there or dirt or anything. So I'm just going to try and brush between those teeth, and then I turn it a little bit and brush some more, and turn it and brush some more, and just kind of keep doing that. See a little discoloration coming off there. Okay, now this gear mates up, I don't think we'll be able to see it, but it mates up with a gear on top of the vertical shaft that's going down to the bottom of the machine. Can I zoom in with this thing? Oh, I forgot. Now you can see some teeth back in there, right? Until I until I change the lighting. Right back there. That's the bottom of this gear. Mates and meshes with this gear on top of the horizontal, the vertical shaft. So we want to get our brush down in there if we can. Zoom back out of here. And I usually just go in there with the brush and slowly turn the hand wheel while I brush back and forth and up and down on that gear. Okay. That one was a little more dirty because it's facing right up. See that? So, we're glad to get that gunk off of there, right? And then we're going to want to put grease on there the same way we did the hand wheel. And what we're going to do is just put a little bit of grease on this gear and turn it and grease it and turn it and grease it, and it will transfer grease down to that lower gear. Okay, so I'll just get a little bit on here like I did before, and just now remember, we just want the grease on the teeth of the gear. Every place else it doesn't do any good. Get some more on here. Inevitably, I seem to get some on the shaft here, which I'll clean up in a moment. Get a little bit more here. But I hope this video is going okay for you. I feel very clumsy and out of practice. I guess I'll find out when I edit it how bad it looks. But videos are not like love. Some people say any kind of love is better than no love, but I don't know. A bad video may not be better than no video. Okay. So, I've put grease all around there. I'm going to slowly turn it, and you'll see that the excess has popped out on the side of the gear here a little bit. You can see here, and you can see where I got some on the arm shaft. So it really is just the teeth that holds the gears, holds the grease. Now it's not doing that anymore because some of it's being transferred to that gear on the bottom. Let me wipe up some excess here. So I wanted to show you too, if you don't have a paintbrush, for years I just used the tip of my finger to spread the grease. I just didn't want to put big old globs of grease all over the place and have it flying around. I'm just going to take this and hold it against that shaft and rotate it, get a little bit off. And I also know, if you look right up in here when I lift this up, you'll see where some of the grease has flown off in here while it's transferring to the other side. So that's how easy, and this grease actually clings pretty good. So I'll just get that. Get this. Got a little bit extra now because I was showing you how to do it with your finger. But now we have greased the top gears. The hand wheel gear, motor pinion, gear on the horizontal shaft, and the gear on top of the vertical shaft there. I'll have some nice fresh coat of grease. So what that leaves us for the grease is the combination of gears at the bottom that goes from that vertical shaft to the horizontal hook drive shaft down here. Right? And that's the same kind of a setup. Here we have a smaller hook shaft gear and the larger horizontal vertical shaft gear is larger diameter, and this one is a smaller diameter going to the hook. And what we're going to do here is put a little bit of grease on each one of these and rotate the hand wheel again to get some spreading around of that grease. You should see if these need any little bit of cleaning off here. Yeah, a little bit. So let me rotate that. And let me see if I can get in here. And I really like these old toothbrushes, these old nylon toothbrushes for cleaning these gears up, just getting the old residue of grease off. They work real well. Okay, wasn't bad. Then I'll just put some grease on these guys. And I'll start rotating those and get them to match up and spread the grease around a little bit. You see how it peaks up at the edge of the teeth there? We'll scoop that up and spread it back onto the... And the same kind of thing, I'm going to try and clean up any excess grease that has slipped off or that I brushed on somewhere where I really don't want it. Oops, see how it peaked right up? Yeah, you can tell when you're getting plenty of grease on there, because as you mesh the teeth together, it'll force the extra grease out to the tip. So it's telling me I got plenty of grease on there, and I'll just take another Q-tip and wipe up any excess here. And there's going to be excess on the face of that, and there'll be a little excess here. Okay. That is everything that you grease on a Singer 301A. Those 5 gears and the pinion gear. So there's 6 gears. The hand wheel gear to the motor pinion gear, the upper 90-degree gear set, and the lower 90-degree gear set. Ta-da! End of the greasing. So I'm going to set Coco back up here, because when I come back now, I'm going to start oiling from the top down. and we're going to hit all the little oil places that you need to put some oil. Okay, I'm going to show you how I oil the top here, the horizontal arm, and you can do this with the cover on, because this should be done more than once a year if you use the machine frequently. Do it a little more often. If you use it occasionally, probably put a drop of oil in each one of these holes before you start your project. But there's 5 oil holes up here, one behind the thumb nut to adjust pressure on the presser foot right here, and then there's one here, and there's 3 over here. These bigger holes are for the screws that hold this on. But I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to show you. You can oil it with the cover off, and since I had it off to grease it, I'm going to show you this. These 3 holes here, 1, 2, 3, line up with the arm shaft, the bushing, the forked feed eccentric, and the fork lift bar right here. So 1, 2, 3. This hole lines up with the front bushing of that arm, and this little hole up here actually goes through a hole in the body to the top hinge screw of the take-up lever. And I'm going to show you that inside when I oil the nose. So for right now, I'm just going to oil the 4 points. Okay? And don't put oil in these 2 outside holes, because those are where the screws go. Okay? So we're just going to put a drop or 2 in each one of these. Very easy, very quick. And then this front one. Okay. And then that's why I like to have I do the hand wheel first, I told you, so that I can rotate this stuff when I put the oil on. Okay. So I just want to show you that. If you get oil someplace it shouldn't be, just go ahead and take a rag and clean it up. No reason to leave it in there collecting dirt and stuff like that. Okay. Now I'm going to set up the machine to show you how you oil the body here, and we'll be oiling the vertical shaft bearings. We oil the horizontal bushings or bearings here. We'll do the vertical ones, and then we'll do the hook shaft down here. Okay, and one other that a lot of people forget. So let me set this back up and I'll be right back. Okay, I have the front of the machine on my block just to tilt it back in the light here to start with, so you can get some light up here. The one little spot a lot of people forget is on, this is the bobbin winder, and this is the friction ring or rubber tire, and this is the spindle you put the bobbin on, and this is the frame or the frame arm. But that spindle goes through there, and you can see this little hole right there, and that's to oil the little bushing for the spindle. And you don't want to get any oil really on the frame, but especially the tire, because then it won't be a friction ring, it'll just be a greasy rubber tire. So just put a drop of oil in there and go ahead and spin it. I spilt a little, so I'll just wipe up the excess there. Okay, so we got that oiled. Now this hole up here and this hole down here are to oil the top and bottom bushing for that horizontal arm where we did the grease the gear at the top and the bottom, and we want to keep that oiled. Now this goes in quite a ways, which is another reason I like these little tubes. Let me just pinch that and show you. That's how far it goes in to oil it. And the bottom one is not quite that far, but almost. So if you don't have an oil with a little tube like that, you can actually lay the machine on its back and drop a couple drops of oil in there, so it'll go down into the bearing. With this little tube, I can stick it in till it stops, and I can watch the air bubbles here. Matter of fact, I don't think you'll be able to see the air bubbles, but you can put a couple drops of oil in there. Okay, and come down here, do the bottom one, stick it in, put a couple, whoop, got a little exuberant there, so you may have seen some oil backwash out, so no problem. I'll just clean up that. Then I'm going to go ahead and spin the hand wheel to rotate that shaft through those bushings and get the oil spread around there. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my block out so the machine is flat, because there's a couple I'll tilt that back by hand, but there's a couple down here on the bed. Okay, and you know look, it's to oil these bushings in here where that shaft goes through. Okay, so of course you want to oil that. These machines will last so long because you can oil them. They're not a sealed bearing and plastic and stuff, you know, it's all metal, but you do have to oil it once in a while, right, to prevent friction. So the two places that you want to oil here, see if I can find a combination of light. I think you'll be able to see this one. There's one right here. Okay, so this was the bottom of the vertical shaft. This is the right side of the hook shaft, and over here in line with that is the left side of the hook shaft. Okay, so you're not oiling here, you're not oiling these two little guys. If you look closely, there's like screw threads in there, and that's to attach seam guides and other attachments that you can use for sewing. But this one in line with this one, those are the two that you want to oil for the hook shaft. So the same kind of thing. I'm going to stick the tube down in there and put a couple drops of oil in there. Put a couple drops of oil in this one. Spilt a little here, so I'll wipe it up. Yay. Okay, and then again I'll rotate that hand wheel, which makes all the shafts turn and everything, and I will get that done. Okay, so those are the 5 on the front and the body. Bobbin winder, top of the shaft, bottom of the shaft, right side of the shaft, left side of the shaft. Okay. Now, when we got this, let's go ahead and do the nose. With the lid off of the machine, we can open this up and you can lift this up and take it off if you want. It's not going to help get any more light in there. So, but I talked about back here behind this, that little hole that goes through the arm cover, and you see a little hole will be back here for the body, and it goes in to oil this hinge stud right here. Well, screw stud, I guess you could call it. This is the take-up lever. It takes the thread up and down, okay? And this is kind of like where it anchors on the body, and then it anchors here on right down here. So that at the top of that circle of silver metal is a little oil hole to get oil inside there, and that's what that little hole up at the top is. So you have to turn this to a position where that hole lines up with the hole up here. Okay, and I don't know, I can try this, I guess. Maybe, I don't know if I don't think you're going to be able to see that hole really. I can see it. Maybe you can see that. There's a little hole right there. So we turn that up so it lines up kind of straight up, which means this connecting link bar is horizontal. Okay, that lines up the hole with the top, and then I should be standing up to do this, but let's see if I can get down in there and put a drop of oil in there. Now, while you're up here, this hinge or swivel point right here also has a little hole you'll see right up at the top, and that's where you want to put another drop of oil, is right in there. Okay, and then this connecting link to attach the top of the needle bar has this darker metal piece has a little oil hole right at the top of it. So that's where you get another drop of oil in there. Okay, and then I don't think that's about it right there. This there it is. There it is. At the top, whoops, at the top of this link from the needle bar up to the counterbalance, this top of the darker piece of metal, there's a hole up in the top of that. Because you see all those parts are going to be moving in there, right? So when you have metal on metal moving, that's where you oil. So if you put this almost straight up, if you put it exactly straight up, it's hard to get into the hole. But if you put it almost straight up, you can just come in next to that take-up lever hinge, and you'll see a little hole up there, and you put a drop of oil in there. Okay? Then I'm going to rotate all that stuff, get that yummy fresh oil in there. And then we're going to put the, let's see, I can back this up a little now. Put this needle bar in the down position. I like to put it in the down position. And then See this part here, all the way down to here? That's the needle bar bushing, this silver piece. And the needles constantly, thousands of times while you're sewing, going through there. And it's it's milled very fine. Just enough room for a little film of oil to get in there to separate the metal and keep it from wearing. So with this towards the down side, I like to put a drop of oil right at the top of that bushing. Okay, nice big fat drop of oil. Then I'll slowly raise that up and the oil will spread onto the needle bar. And then you can run it up and down a few times. Exercise to get in there. Okay. Now the top part of the needle bar is hollow. And when you look at the top up here, you see a big old hole up in here, you know. Don't put oil in there. It's just like a hollow tube for the top part of the bar. And the bottom part of the bar is more solid. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing for the presser barb, because it goes through a nice big heavy bushing that's from here to here. So with the presser bar down, the foot down, presser bar down, I'm going to put a drop of oil at the top of that bushing, right? And then I'm going to run that lever up and down a couple times there and get that oil distributed in there. Good. Okay. Now let's see if you're going to be able to see this in here. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to take that nose plate off, because I want a better angle for this. Okay. So with the arm cover has to be off, and there's two little pins here that go in two little holes. And this is a little bit fragile. It's the same thing on the Slant-O-Matics. So with this open, you just gently pull it up, what's that, 1/8 of an inch, and then pull it off. And you can see the little pins here, right? And a lot of people and break off one of the pins. And in the body casting here and down here, there's holes for those pins. So that's where that goes. Now, with that off, I'm hoping you're going to be able to see. This one isn't in the manual, but right here there's a big hinge screw right there to hold the presser bar lifting lever. Okay, see that? Okay. And I like to put a drop of oil on that, because when I've taken a lot of those off to clean them and stuff, you'll see a lot of wear metal on metal. Because how many times do you lift that presser bar when you're sewing, right? So I like to just put just a little drop, just enough. And there we go. So, like other places, with excess oil, I'm just going to use a Q-tip here to mop up any excess oil. It all seems to come down into the bottom here. If you've ever cleaned any of these machines and open the nose, and in the back here you got a 1/4 inch of dried gunk back there. We're just going to clean up that little bit. Okay. Because if it's not in those oil ports and where it's metal on metal, on the outside, I guess it would prevent rust, you know, but it also collects lint and dirt and dust. So we'll try and mop up, we'll call it, a little excess oil stuff. Okay. And then I think they do say, because there's a spring inside here, inside the top part of the pressure bar, and when you're turning this knob, you're pushing down on the spring, it makes more pressure down on the pressure foot, and if you adjust it up, it makes less pressure, you know. So you're lifting this up and down, and it's pushing on a spring. So I'm going to go ahead and put a drop of oil on that push rod, and it's gonna run right down in there. And don't put a lot in there, because there's no way for it to get out, you know. But that one I do put a little bit of oil on. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of mop up the top part here that doesn't go down in there. And there's the nose, all freshly oiled. You didn't see this, but before I took my lint brush and I had brushed out all this stuff earlier when I was looking at the machine. And then I thought, oh, I should have showed you how to do that. But you can open the nose cover and brush that out all the time. Like with my wife, when she's done sewing, she brushes that out, and she brushes off the feed dog area, and she brushes off the tension unit just to try and keep extra lint out of there. Okay, and then I'll see if I can show you how to put this cover back on.
Hey.
See if I can get it back out here a little bit, because you line up those pins at the top and then the bottom, and this, they don't see, it's a little tricky to line them up, but once you do, come on you, then it goes down. There we go. So it slips down in there, and now you're back on the hinges. Okay. And if you have the cover that won't stay closed, or my wife's, for some reason, it was very hard to close and open, and what I found was that this is a little spring clip that's screwed to the nose, and it just goes right around the top of the needle bar bushing, and that's what it springs onto and clips. Okay, and it was like twisted, so I just loosened it and lined it up and tightened it real good this way, and it's good to go. So you want a nice firm clip, but hers was difficult, like when you tried to close it, because this was crooked. Okay, now I set up here. I got one more place under on the hook bobbin case holder that I want to show you, and the feed drop I want to show you where to oil down here, and then we're going to oil the bottom and we'll be set. Alright, this is the this is the big thumb screw to raise and lower the feed dog, to drop the feed dog down. And if I turn it all the way left, it's several turns like that. Okay, and then I'm going to put a drop of oil in there where the screw is to get some oil on those threads. And again, this doesn't take a lot of wear, so this is just to keep it lubricated, so if you do want to lower your feed dog, it's not so stiff and dry and hard to turn. Put a drop of oil in there and then just screw it back in all the way. You'll have a little bit of a oil film in there to make sure that you can open it and close it, or lower and raise the feed dog. Okay? And then we're going to take out the bobbin case and the bobbin, going to remove that. And then let's see if I can reach back here and turn the hand wheel. Yeah. You see the hook rotating there. And I looked in there before to make sure that I didn't see a bunch of thread stuck behind those holes and wrapped around the center. And it looks good to me. So I'm going to rotate, because you need to put a drop of oil on the race here. Now, I'll go a little bit more here. Can you see the hook point area right here where these two points cross? That gives you a little bit more room to see. I'm going to raise it back up a little bit. But you can see a little space in here. And you'll see the base of the bobbin case holder here. And it's got some little cutouts right here. And that is where you want to get a drop of oil up here, and it's going to run down in there like that. Okay. So if your bobbin case ever sounds noisy, like it's jumping around or kind of a squeaky or scraping sound, it might be because you didn't know about this and you never put a drop of oil in here. There. That's it. Then just rotate that again. And we have a nice lubrication on the race of the hook. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the bobbin case back on there. Snap it back in there. Yep. Yay! Okay. So, get this down. Move Coco around here because I want to lay her back on the towel again and get to this bottom area of so I can show you where to oil here. Now sometimes I have even turned the machine upside down and very thick towel and rested it on the hand wheel and the stuff like that. But I usually use a block, something like this, to get it up here. Let's see if I can get it up even a little bit higher for you. Oh, that's a little dangerous. Okay. Okay, we'll try that. So, I'm gonna have to turn slowly here so I don't knock it off the block. But let's see if I gotta push this back so that you can see it more. Raise this up a little bit. You can see that. Okay. So you see all these things like the fork feed connector moving and the fork, the lift for the feed dog. So where you see this eccentric stud going in here, that's used to adjust height and location. There's going to be a little hole up there for you to put a drop of oil in. And this, when you have a eccentric stud going into this so that it can swivel, see the set screw there? The stud doesn't move, but the little shaft rotates back and forth on the end of the stud. So that's where the oil goes, because that's where the metal's moving on metal. Okay? And then same thing down here. The metal's moving on metal. But this one, these parts don't move. So you have a screw and an eccentric and a nut that go in there, but again that's adjusting, but nothing moves inside there, it all moves down here. Okay, so you're going to have a, and this, your hook shaft and stuff gets oiled from the top. Remember that bushing? Those get oiled from the top. So you don't have to oil anything down here, okay? On that. So I'm going to put this in that little hole up on the top there. And I'm going to put a drop or two of oil in there. And then where this shaft rocks back and forth on the kind of pointed end of that eccentric stud, I'm going to put a drop of oil there and on this one down here. Okay? Okay. Then I'll just wipe up the excess. Now let's look at this other side here. I'm going to have the same kind of a deal here. Okay. I'm going to have the end of this shaft coming over here, and it rotates here, and it rotates here, and then this stuff swivels and moves for the rocking motion of the feed dog. So when you have that stuff that's moving like that, see that moving there? Okay. We want to oil that part that's moving there. It's a little hard to see and get in there, but if you do like that, move the hand wheel a little bit, you'll see what metal pieces are moving against each other, and you can put a drop of oil and a drop of oil and a drop of oil back there. Okay. And this was that to drop the feed that we oiled from there. So I think that's going to be it over here. Okay, it's got a little oil splash over here. Okay. That looks pretty good, pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to look this over and see if there's anything I forgot to oil. And then we'll do some finish up reassembling everything. Okay, I looked over my notes and stuff, and I'm pretty sure I got all the oil points for you there that are common for an annual kind of tune-up, chuck up, and oiling and greasing. I want to go ahead and finish up now. If you remember from before, the tension unit and the pressure foot that I've been soaking in alcohol to just make sure any grit and oil and stuff gets loosened up and cleaned off here. So I'm going to get those parts out of the alcohol like that, and then I'm going to go and blow those dry with a hair dryer before I put them back on the machine. And while I'm doing that, I am going to take that alcohol and I'm going to put it under the needle bar, if I can get it in there. Maybe not, it's too tall. I must have used a smaller one last time. See if I can find something a little shallower. I need a little bit bigger piece here. I think I'm going to have to add a little more alcohol to that. But I want to soak the needle clamp in there, because you saw me oiling the needle bar and the bushing and stuff, and that oil, especially when it gets warmed up, has a tendency to run down and settle in the needle clamp area. And so I just want to get that, any oil in there, dissolved and out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in there, and I'm going to lower the needle clamp down into there, okay, and just let that soak for a little bit while I go and blow dry these parts so that I can get them back on the machine. Alright, everything is dry now. I have my presser foot and the tension unit and everything like that. So let me get this needle clamp up out of the alcohol here and put that aside, and I am going to go ahead and lower it down and dry that real quick. I'll have to turn off the sound here. Okay. And I want to put my tension unit back in. If you remember, just a little set screw there that goes in. Let's make sure I get the right size in there. And we want to stick it back in just the same way we took it off. So the plus minus dividing bar should line up with the post that holds the guard in there, and we're just going to stick it right back in, and we're going to lift the take-up spring, the check spring, up above the stop while we put it in there. And I think I will put a teeny drop of oil on there just to help that get back in there. Of course, you never want oil anywhere near the discs inside there. Okay, make sure we're lined up there. Get that up above. There we go. We'll tighten that screw back up. To hold that so it doesn't twist. And then we can put our presser foot back on. Get the little thumb screw started. Then once I have this, I'm going to put the cover, all the covers back on. And then I'm going to use a cleaner wax on the outside of the machine. Because now it's got my oily, greasy fingerprints all over it. And can't have that ruin the whole idea, right, of servicing the machine. Okay, perfect. I took the nose cover back back off so you could see this. As a matter of fact, I might just do the cleaner wax with the covers off so I can show you. I'm not going to make you watch me do the whole thing, but I will show you for those of you that have never waxed your machine, just to give you an idea of what happens. I'll wax a couple parts here. I'll wax the nose cover, and maybe I'll wax the bed extension to give you an idea here, because it's lost some of its sheen now and everything. So the cleaner wax idea, I just buy these waxing pads. They come to, this one's cut in half, and I'm going to cut it in half again, but they I get them there like two for $1 at the dollar store, and it's just a little thin cotton terry cloth over foam. So I'll just cut this in half, and I'll use one for the cleaner wax, and then I usually do a carnauba waxing also. Okay, so I use this Meguiar's cleaner wax. I'm sure that there's other brands and so forth, and this just helps get off all of my fingerprints and oil I dripped all over, and laying it around on the bench and the towels and so forth, right? So I'll see if and that looks pretty plugged up. I don't even know if that's going to work. Let's see. Oh, it does. I don't need much here just to show you this, but just apply it like you would any furniture wax or car wax, you know. Just rub it on there, and you don't need a lot. And then you're going to want to let it haze up and dry, of course. And then we'll buff it off. See, just a thin coating like that. And then I'm going to do half of this bed extension here. Show you that. Now, cleaner wax may be all that you need if you even want to do this. I like to do it. It's easier when she dusts off the machine as a microfiber towels I bought her, and when she's done she brushes it off and then wipes it off, because she gets fingerprints and oil and stuff from her hands on there too, and it just helps that wipe up nice and easy and keeps the machine looking good and protects the paint. So I'm going to let that haze up here, and then I'll come back and show you how it looks. Okay, after it's hazed up here, then I'll just buff off the cleaner wax and take off all those fingerprints and smears and everything that I might have got on there. And we can see now it's nice and much shinier now, so forth. And the same thing is going to be with this extension table here. Of course, with this lighting you may not see it, but you'll be impressed if you use some car wax on your machine. Okay. Then after I do that to the whole machine, I do come back and put some straight car wax. This is I've always just used this Meguiar's Gold Class Carnauba. And the same thing with one of these pieces of the applicator on here, and I'll get a little wax on there, and I'll put, again, these are thin coats. Unlike your car, your machine shouldn't be out in the wind and dust and rain and driving around and exposed to sunlight all the time and so forth. So just a thin coat of this to protect the finish is all you're usually going to need. And do this half that I used the cleaner wax on before. And you can also put this on chrome, and you know, all the painted surfaces and everything on the machine. And I've put it on the bottom plate too, the black plate on the bottom of the machine to protect that. I'll do the same treatment. And it's the same kind of thing. I'm going to let the wax haze up, and then I'll buff it off and we'll take a look at it. Okay. We're all hazed up with the Carnauba wax here, so I'm just going to buff it out. Yeah, you can see already how nice that's going to look. It's kind of nice after working with all the grease and oil and everything else to come back and clean up the outside of the machine and have it looking good. I think you can probably see that fairly well in the video. Let's come down to the extension table here and go ahead and do that. You can even see on the chrome there how well it brightens up chrome. Not sure how this angle is gonna look there to show the shine. Let's see if I compare it to this side here. I got a nice oily thumbprint there. But you can see the typical wear spots on a machine from where the work is compared to, like, up at the lampshade here, and especially on the back side of the upright usually has the best paint. I haven't done it yet, and it still looks very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and use the cleaner wax and then put a coat of the Carnauba on the whole machine, get her back together, and I'll come back for one last segment when I'm finished. Well, I just thought I'd give you one more look at Coco before I put her back in her cabinet. And I did want to make one caveat about waxing when you wax the machine. This one or, whoops, this one or any other, is don't let any wax get on the collar, the inside collar of the hand wheel where your friction ring or rubber tire is going to sit, or else the spindle won't turn very well to wind your bobbin. Other than that, she looks great, doesn't she? And she runs so quiet and smooth. Good control. I didn't have to do anything with the foot pedal. It's still very good. Good range of motion from very slow up to high speed. So no problems with that. And you know, I have not edited all these segments yet. I usually record them all and then do a big editing session. But I did go and look at a couple of the previous segments, and man, am I rusty. So I guess, right to be feeling a little nervous and rusty, because I am. But I was in between stuff here, and I wanted to do this, and I didn't do Coco last year, so it was a pleasure for me to do this, and I hope when you came by here, I hope you gleaned a little bit of information, or maybe at least had a good laugh, you know, at my efforts. So as always, thank you very much for stopping by my channel, and I hope that you will do so in the future, okay? And take care of yourself.